The latest update to Limbus company has given us two brand new Season 7 identities to play around with: the Pinky Apprentice Sinclair and Lobotomy Eagle Lamp Gregor. These two units are, once again, dual status identities with a lot to offer, though for today we're pushing Gregor to the side, as in this video I will be talking about Ren Sinclair in all of his glory. Sinclair is a Poise Bleed identity that doesn't seem to be contesting any other meta unit, and instead he brings back some tried and true concepts and mechanics to fill out his all-rounder kit. But how good is he? And should you get him? In today's video I aim to talk about exactly that, by first looking at Sinclair's kit, and then checking out his performance in Poise and Bleed, his two teams of choice. But before we start, I have to remind you that most of my viewers are not subscribed, so if you find yourself coming back to my videos or end up enjoying this one, consider subscribing. It takes just 1 second and helps me out a lot. Now let's get to Sinclair. We'll start with his kit. Sinclair has low health, an average speed roll and a -2 defense level. His sin affinity spread consists of Gloom, Pride and Wrath, with a Pride defense. Sinclair's skills get stronger based on his Poise stack, and the Bleed part of his kit is not used for conditionals. His first skill is Chain Strike. It rolls up to 15, gives Sinclair 3 Poise count on use, and its coins give 4 Poise and inflict 2 Bleed count. The last one also gives Sinclair haste, and gives 1 more on crit heads hit. The second skill is Nameless Slash. This one rolls up to 18, and has 3 attack weight with unfocused volley. It gains base power from Poise, and both of its coins give 1 Poise count on hit. The first coin also gives 3 Poise potency, while the second one deals extra crit damage and inflicts 2 bleed on hit, while also being reused on crit heads hit and then getting reused again if the first reuse lands on heads and Sinclair has 10 Moonlit Azure Blade. Sinclair's third skill is Fall Star Slayer. It rolls up to 32 and deals extra damage for every point of its attack weight that goes unused. The coin of the skill turns unbreakable at 20 Moonlit Blades, and the coin and base powers of the skill increase with Poise and Moonlit Blades. On use, Sinclair gains 7 Poise, and before attack, the skill gains attack weight based on Moonlit Blade stacks, up to 2. After attack, the skill consumes 5 stacks for every attack weight gained this way. The skill's one and only coin deals increased damage on crit, inflicts 5 bleed on hit, and on crit heads hit, the skill inflicts 25% of its damage as bonus slash damage against the target. As for Sinclair's defensive skills, he actually has 2. The first one is Defend, a clashable guard that generates 8 Poise and 2 Poise count at combat start, and gets changed to Swerve once Sinclair hits 25 Poise. Swerve, of course, is the second defensive skill. This one is an evade that gives Sinclair shield and 4 Poise count at combat start. On evade, it also provides crit damage up next turn, up to 2 times a turn. As for Sinclair's passives, he has 2 very simple ones. The first passive is Singular Focus of the Mind. At turn end, it converts up to 15 Poise above 25 into Moonlit Azure Blade. And at combat start, if Sinclair isn't using attack skills, he gets 5 SP and slash power up next turn. The second passive is the Orthodox Blade. It requires 2 Pride Resonance to activate, and at combat start, it gives Sinclair Poise scaling with Pride Resonance, up to 4. Also, at combat end, if Sinclair is at 20 or more poise, he gets 1 poise count. As for his support passive, Sinclair gets Tranquility, which requires 2 Pride Resonance again, and gives the fastest ally 5 SP and 5 shield when they have a defensive skill equipped. This is the entirety of Sinclair's kit, but before we get into him in combat, let's look at his unique effect. Moonlit Azure Blade stacks up to 20, gives Sinclair 2 shield for every stack at turn start, and also increases his crit damage by 1% for every stack as well. He also gets crit damage up, which is not a new effect, but it's a rare one, so just know it's effectively just damage up, but only for crits. With this, we're done with Sinclair's kit, and we can start talking about his performance. Usually, at this point, I go over the overarching abilities and mechanics of the ID before actually diving into their performance in their signature teams. But with Sinclair, it's kind of all about poise. So we'll start immediately with his poise performance, and we'll talk about all that he can do at the same time. And holy shit, they finally done it! No more Thoracalgia circle jerking, no more defense spam cuckoldry, we finally got a poise identity that fucking stacks poise! That's right, Sinclair's poise stacking abilities are very potent. His skill 1 gets enough poise count to cover for its coins and the turn end decay. His skill 2 covers all of its coins even with both reuses, and while his skill 3 is negative, it's only by 1, and it's completely offset by Sinclair's guard, which hyperstacks the effect, and they evade, which gives you poise count for days. And don't forget his second passive, which gives both poise potency and count, so you juice up the stack even further. Seeing a fully functional poise ID in this day and age feels like a blessing, but when you look at his unique effect, it starts making sense. See, Sinclair tackles the eternal poise issue of the effect not actually doing anything after 20 stacks. Each stack of poise gives a 5% chance to crit, so there's literally no difference between 20 and 99 poise potency. Or rather, this is the case for most poise IDs, yet Sinclair is not most poise IDs. Overcapping on poise allows him to gain his unique effect, which is needed to hit some big power spikes in Sinclair's kit, while also providing good buffs on its own. Now, why the threshold is at 25 poise and not 20 is beyond me, but it's still much better than not interacting with the effect at all. The power spikes that I am referring to are the second reuse on his skill 2 and the extra AoE on his skill 3, which brings me to Sinclair's skills. That's right, baby, double reuse skill 2s are back on the menu, and they're looking better than ever. With both reuses and 20 Moonlit Blade stacks, Sinclair's skill 2 damage almost reaches 140 before any enemy-specific modifiers or ally buffs. For reference, Rin Yisang, the Season 4 prototype of what Sinclair is right now, at least from a damage perspective, has a skill 2 that deals just above 100 damage, meaning that Nameless Slash is legitimately a disgusting skill at max ramp. It's not the highest damage skill 2 in the game, but it's closer to that spot than most. Oh, by the way, for some reason the skill also gets unfocused volley with 3 weight, which can be a blessing and a curse. If you're cleaning up a group of enemies, this effect allows Sinclair's damage to not go to waste, but against a multi-part boss, it increases the likelihood of him not capitalizing on a staggered or broken part efficiently. As for his skill 3, Fall Star Slayer, First of all, incredibly cool name, but also the skill falls in line with me saying that Runyasang is the prototype for Sinclair's damage, at least in one type of encounter. See, against one target, even a maxed out 4-star Slayer will not do any insane damage. It hits up to around 160 damage, which isn't nothing, but it's also nothing impressive, especially for how long it takes to ramp up to it and for the fact that Sinclair is a Poise ID, meaning his physical damage is his main, if not only, contribution to the fight. Against 3 targets though, it's a different story. Even though 4-star Slayer gets stronger with each attack weight that goes unused, the total damage of the skill when hitting 3 enemies is still pretty much double that of when it hits only 1. This doesn't apply to most endgame bosses, but against groups or multi-part abnormalities, you can make it count. While Sinclair's skills 2 and 3 are cool and unique, his skill 1 really doesn't have much going for it. It gives good poise, and that's about it. The damage is not impressive at all, though for some reason it gives Sinclair haste, even though he never interacts with speed in his kit. Well, I guess it doesn't hurt him. The one thing that holds Sinclair back from being an absolute bulldozer on the field is the time it takes him to ramp up. While it's true he reaches 20 poise very quickly and extremely consistently, Sinclair's kit expects you to go above that and stack Moonlit Blade for extra skill effects. Getting 35 poise in total for the double reuse skill 2 takes a while, and getting the 3-weight skill 3 requires 45 poise in total, so it's an even longer setup. This ends up making Sinclair fairly weak in the opening turns of a fight, but once he gets all his resources online, he can easily start out-damaging most identities. Now again, Kim Ji-hoon hates us, so there is no relevant railway at the moment, and Sinclair doesn't really have a good playground that isn't 10 levels below him. But, as is the case with many poise or charge identities, in any fight that takes a while, he's your guy. Overall, for the Poise team, he is a very competent slow ramp identity, with both a lot of single target damage and some AoE nuking potential. Sinclair is insanely straightforward, so it's easy to play him. I tend to just defend once and then start using skills. But you can try mixing it up to either start dealing some damage earlier or to get more poise quicker. Moving on, we have the Bleed team to talk about as well. And, at least to me, it seems like a lot of people really overrate his bleed potential. I'm sure you've seen this image, which compares parts of Sinclair's kit to older identities. And while most of it is fine, it says he's got the bleed of Kurokumo. And that's just a flat-out lie. See, Sinclair's bleed is actually salvageable if we look at it like this. 2 unconditional count on his skill 1 is much appreciated, and over a skill rotation that adds up to 6 count total, which is about the average amount of bleed count per rotation in many modern bleed identities. At its peak, Sinclair's skill 2 also inflicts good potency, and his skill 3 potency is also nice, and guaranteed. But this is the case on paper and in a vacuum. In reality, the issue of ramp appears again here, as Sinclair's skill 2 relies on reuses to get 2/3 of its bleed infliction, which, in turn, rely on stacking poise as usual. And while it's fine for an identity's physical damage to be locked behind setup, effect infliction, especially bleed, the boss nuking effect, doesn't mesh well with any kind of 4 to 5 turn setups. Not to mention, even if we forgot about the ramp issue, the final numbers are just not Kurokumo level. Yeah, sure, they're respectable, but the clan has some unironically filthy bleed infliction, which Sinclair can't compete with. But of course, I see your comments already. Depekot Yisang support passive. Use that support passive. And well, you're right, it does exist, and it works really well with Sinclair, allowing him to double the bleed infliction of his skill 2 and add some extra bleed into his skill 3. And while it looks appealing yet again, the core issues at play aren't fixed by the first mate's acumen. The slow setup is still there, so it doesn't really matter that Nameless Slash can inflict 12 bleed, when you spend the entire fight trying to get into a position that even allows the skill to actually do that. Also, it's a Yisang passive, meaning you're not fielding Ring. And while it's true that you can get away with not running him nowadays, for what currently is the most relevant endgame content, I'd much rather keep him on the field. Coming back to the whole Kurokumo bleed narrative, the other options you have for effect stacking are just better. The easy way out is giving Heathcliff an extra slot, as he's the mean lean bleed machine already, so an extra slot to that guy would do a lot of good. If you want extremely quick bleed stacking for a fast boss kill, then look no further than Kurokumo Honglu. Shitty thumbnails like these might lead you to believe he's actually weak, but that dude is like the third best Kurokumo identity in the game, and he fulfills his job very effectively. Overall, I feel like Renclair falls short of being able to add to the bleed team, while not necessarily being completely hopeless. It's nice that his secondary status at least tries being good, because oftentimes that second keyword is just there to hit the quota, but his bleed is actually good enough to where I would say he could work as a stopgap solution on a poorly built bleed team, while you grind for better identities. With this, my overview of Ren Sinclair is over. I quite like the simplicity of this ID. He stacks poise well, deals good damage, and is applicable in pretty much any scenario as a generalist independent from his team. If you started playing recently and got this guy, be happy, he's very competent on his own. If you have fully built teams already though, he's just a poise ID with good damage in long fights, which is pretty nice, but he's not much more than that. If you disagree or have something to add, feel free to leave a comment below, and I might read it and respond. Gregor's video is planned for the near future, so stay tuned. And this month I plan on diving into some systems and tendencies in ID design that I find interesting, so if that sounds exciting, consider subscribing. And also leave a like if you liked this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Goodbye!